What's up, everybody? Thank you so much for listening to the podcast. I wanted to put this in the beginning. Of course, we are coming to you live from Gotham Production Studios, which is our home here for X Drinking Buddy. Remember to subscribe on Patreon, patreon.com/Brennan Tassif. You can also follow on social media at X Drinking Buddy on Instagram, Twitter, and follow me at Brennan T Comedy on all social media. Check out BrennanTComedy.com for the upcoming shows. And don't forget to get your X Drinking Buddy merch. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Boom. That's it. Easy peasy.
Grab me a beer and grab me a coke. We about to sit for an hour, bullshit and tell jokes. And please don't mix it up, cause he done sobered up. Brennan T Comedy on your social media feeds. And Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy. Brennan Tassif is your ex drinking buddy.
What is up, everybody? Welcome into another edition of Brennan Tassif is your X Drinking Buddy. I'm your host, Brennan Tassif. If you're new to the program, quick rundown of the show. I used to be everyone's favorite drinking buddy. It was my favorite thing to do, hang out with friends, get drunk, do drugs, get in all sorts of trouble, and then reminisce about those old stories. I am sober now, but it is still one of my favorite things to do, hang out with someone and reminisce about the crazy old days. Most weeks I will be joined by a guest. This week is no exception. All the way from New York City, Brent Birnbaum.
Oh my God.
What's up, dude?
I'm good. Thanks for having me, Brennan.
Of course. Thanks for coming on. Before we get too far into anything, plug everything up front. You just launched a new podcast last week because this will come out next week.
Okay.
Let everybody know, social media, everything like that. Let them know.
Absolutely. Just launched the podcast called At Secret Identity Podcast. It is on YouTube. It is on Instagram. It is myself and Troy Bond. And
I know Troy.
Oh, yeah. Troy, great guy.
He hosted my very first industry
Did he
room.
really?
Yeah.
Oh, him and I are both huge comic book nerds.
Are you really?
And yeah,
Okay.
like to an enormous level. And
Comic books exclusively or all sorts of
pop culture, but really we are feeling such fatigue from the Marvel movies and we used to love them and the DC movies, and it kind of brought us back to the comic books that we originally loved. And we're like, these are great. So every episode we take a comic book we love, we break it down.
Oh, that's
summarize it.
awesome.
Thank you.
Yeah, because I was always a Star Wars guy, and I know Troy's kind of real big into Star Wars.
I like Star Wars. He's like next level
Yeah,
Star
yeah,
Wars.
me too. Yeah. But and then social media, where can people find you?
Oh yeah, so at Secret Identity _podcast on Instagram. And then my other plug is I run an independent comedy show called At the Pregame Comedy.
Okay, where's that at?
That's it's pop-up, so we're currently on hiatus looking for a venue. But
I love it when that's
on a
the answer.
rooftop.
Okay, all right. And then your social media is?
Oh, I'm at Brent Birnbaum on Instagram.
Okay, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks
I
for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
Yeah, we met at Broadway.
We did pretty recently.
The listeners know, because we were just talking about it before the mics went on, but I have been trying to get like into more clubs. I made this horrible mistake when I first moved to New York where I was like, I've been doing comedy for like 10 years. I'm just going to hang out at the stand in the cellar until someone goes, hey, boy, oh boy, this guy's got the goods. Get him up.
This guy's got something.
Yeah, so
moxie.
I thought I would show up and the vice president of comedy would be like, hey, my guy Brennan Tassif, she? And that is not what happened. So I've spent 2 years hanging, and I've gotten up at both clubs, but I'm not either obviously passed. So after about 2 years, I was like, all right, I need to do something else, which is why I re-auditioned at the industry room.
Nice.
And then Rich was nice enough to give me some spots out of that, and that's how you and I met.
That's awesome. I love that.
So I wanted to, because this is your first time on the show, and you and I, like we were just telling the listeners, we don't know each other that well.
Right.
So I wanted to get to know you a little bit, like how you grew up in New York, correct?
Yeah, I did. Good memory.
Thank you. Yeah. And then you grew up inside Manhattan?
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. I'm a native New Yorker.
Okay.
I grew up in Manhattan. My family's been in New York for like 3 generations.
Okay.
Typical Jewish family fleeing Europe
said
in
it.
the 20th century. I can say it. But yeah, they are all from New York City.
Okay.
I grew up here, loved the city, left for college in Chicago. But came
Okay,
back.
yeah, we're going to get into that. But I wanted to ask you, how long have you been doing comedy now?
I've been doing comedy 6 years now.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I say, and my listeners are probably sick of me setting it up this way, but I think it's the best way to set it up, you guys. Comedy is such a niche thing, stand-up comedy.
Totally.
I mean, it's such a niche thing. But growing up in New York, obviously, there's a point of entry for it. But how did you specifically find stand-up?
Yeah, it's a great question.
Thank you.
You are a great host.
I try.
My dad did stand up when I was a kid.
Get the fuck out of here.
So he never did it like the way like you and I do it.
Yeah.
Like he was dabbling in it.
Okay.
He had like his midlife
So
crisis
he was
early.
a guy who did comedy,
He was
not
a guy
a comedian.
He was the guy who did comedy, and he's a super funny guy. My dad, like I love watching his stuff.
Yeah.
He's just got great timing. But he started when he was 40.
I was gonna say you said midlife crisis. Sort of a situation.
So he had it a little early, and he's an investment banker on Wall Street.
Okay, so he kind of was just like, I want to try this.
Exactly.
To say I did it, sort of a
and
thing.
you know how it is when you're breaking in. You have to do a lot of stuff. Like
Yeah, and then you move to a big city, and then you have to do it all
You
over
have to do
again.
it all over again. So,
Literally all over again.
and the cycle repeats itself.
I hate it, but that's super cool. So you knew about stand up through your father.
Exactly. And I idolized my
You gotta
dad
get
growing
him on
up.
the podcast.
Yeah, chops. I have to. And he just like I always thought it was so cool that he did it. And so when I graduated from college, I moved to New York and
Moved back
to New York and started trying improv. And it didn't really
Always starts with improv.
always starts. It's the gateway drug.
Yeah. See, I'm a purist.
You're a purist. Went straight into stand up.
We're right into stand up.
I wish I did that.
Well, it's because I only knew stand up. I actually didn't find out about improv until after I had started doing stand up.
Oh, really?
Like I saw Whose Line Is It Anyway and stuff on TV, but I wasn't sure what that was. Like it didn't make sense to me. And I've said this a million times, but I'll let you know. My cousin introduced me to stand up when I was 12. And I would record on VHS on my little VCR. I would record the Comedy Central Presents every Friday.
Oh, that's awesome.
So I would watch over, and I still do it to this day. I'm obsessed with comedy. I love, like, there's a lot of comics where, like, I can't sit in the room. I can't watch. I love it. I've seen comic sets like 10 or 15 times in the last, like, couple of months. And I still, when they come on, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Totally.
I just love it. And so I would watch Mitch Hedberg and Tom Rhodes and, like, these other, Greg Giraldo. I would see these comics, and I'd be like, God, these are so funny. But, like, I love this because I was a really depressed, anxious kid. And I would laugh. And I'd be like, I can't believe these people are making me laugh.
Right.
But I was like, I never thought I could do it. And then I saw Dane Cook rip his shirt off on the Comedy Central Presents and pour water on his head. And I go, oh, I want to do that. And I've actually talked to Dane about this. That was the reason that watching that scene was changed the entire trajectory of my life.
Really?
That's the reason I got into stand-up.
That's so cool.
I saw that scene with the rock set behind him, and he's like, nah, 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 like yelling, and he's like, I always wanted to be a rock star. And I was like, oh, I want to do that. And then I started on the path to figuring out how to do stand-up. So I say all that to say that's not usual. And all the people I've interviewed in the almost 200 episodes I've done, the vast majority is either I wanted to be a comic actor or I started an improv, which is bananas to me. Your dad was a stand-up.
He was. He was the guy who did stand up.
Yeah, but you know what I mean.
Yeah,
like,
no. The reason I started with improv was it was kind of a vengeance type of thing. When I was in college, I didn't get into any of the improv groups when I auditioned.
But why improv? I want to get to the root of that. Why even try it?
They didn't really have a stand-up scene at my college. There was like
in Chicago, there's a real lack of stand-up.
There wasn't a stand-up group. I wasn't going to Zanies or
I know. I just, when you said that, I had to take that shot.
No, that's fair. This was Evanston, Illinois. Thank you very much.
I will have you know. So you wanted to get into something that had to do with being on stage and stuff like that.
Yeah, I did a lot of theater growing up because I wasn't having sex, and I was
tomato.
And I didn't get into any of the improv groups in college, so I joined a fraternity, did all that stuff. But
what kind of fraternity? Party fraternity, black fraternity? Okay.
Black fraternity.
I was going to say Jewish, but I wanted to throw black in there first.
I had bids at the Jewish fraternities. I went the opposite direction. I went to like the most Gentile fraternity ever.
What was it?
It's called Sigma Chi.
So, who doesn't know Sigma Chi?
There's the logo is a giant cross.
Are you?
This was a huge win for the Jews that I got in.
Surrounded by goys.
Thank you for knowing Goya. Yeah. Wait, are you a member of the tribe?
No, not at all. My girlfriend is, and Ari Shaffir is one of my favorite comics. So I learned a lot from his special Jew. Have you seen it?
I haven't.
I learned a lot. And then I showed it to Tracy, my girlfriend, who's Jewish, and I was nervous because I was like, this is going to go one of two ways. She's going to love this, or she's going to hate this and then hate me. And she loved it. Ari's like her second favorite comic behind Jared.
That's great.
Yeah. So I was like, all right, win. So you get there, and you can't get into any of the improv groups. You end up joining a fraternity. We're gonna get back to that. Put a pin in that because I want to focus more on your stand-up journey right now.
Totally.
So then you move back to New York. And what happens when you get back? We kind of started talking about it, and then we went off the rails. You want to keep doing improv, but you said it wasn't for you.
Yeah, so because I didn't really do improv in college, I'm like, you know what? I'm going to go through all the trainings here in New York.
Yeah,
I went
it's the best place in the world to do it.
Absolutely. I went to the People's Improv Theater, which is a great room, by the way.
Yeah.
And did all the levels there. I didn't vibe with the people doing improv as much.
Was it the people or the improv itself?
It was both.
Okay, because I meet people and they're like, oh, I'd rather be on stage by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I thought the teachers were amazing.
Yeah.
Like, they were very talented.
Shout out.
Yeah, shout out the improv teachers. But yeah, I think I didn't like the ethos of improv where it was kind of a mindset if you bombed on stage with improv, there was a lack of accountability. It was kind of like
I say that all the time.
Yeah, it's like it's not about making the audience laugh. It's about creating something bigger than ourselves. It's like, no, it's not. It's about making the audience laugh.
It's so funny you say that because I feel that way about comedy, but with the caveat of the audience does need to laugh.
Exactly.
Because I talk about it all the time where, like, and I talked about this with, I'm going to pick this name up off the floor, Keegan-Michael Key, who comes into my restaurant a lot. Let me get that. But we talked about this because
I got Dane Cook, Keegan-Michael Key name drop so far.
You know. And it's funny because I just sent Dane a DM. This is like in 2010, and he wrote me back. But technically on paper, I can say, yeah, I talked to Dane about this. Same thing with Keegan. He comes into my restaurant and he just wants to eat his dinner. But obviously sometimes we talk about comedy and I can be like, yeah, me and Keegan-Michael Key, we talk comedy. Yeah, it's just a thing. It's like before, oh, this is the boat to my yacht, actually. But we had this discussion where I was saying, because Lenny Bruce is one of my heroes as well. And I was like, you need to challenge the status quo. That is our job as comics, to challenge the status quo, to challenge the norm in a funny way. And I am very pretentious with that, and I guard it. I'm very protective of it. But also, I am not the kind of comic where if I get off stage and the audience didn't laugh, I'm like, oh, they just didn't get it. I'm like, that fucking sucked.
Absolutely.
So with improv, I'm so glad you brought this up because this is one of the beefs I've had towards improv was it's like, well, there's like you and 5 other people. And you're doing it off the cuff, which is incredibly difficult. But if you bomb, you have so many outs to be like, oh, well, the audience, the ideas.
The other guy.
You didn't hold your end up. You didn't hold your end up. And it's like, I don't like that. I like being held accountable. And when you're on stage doing stand-up, you're 100% accountable.
Absolutely.
It's just you up there.
Yeah.
So then you decided, this isn't for me. Did you know you wanted to do something else in the arts?
Yeah, I think so. I think I always wanted to perform. And again, I've seen amazing improv troupes.
Yeah.
And I saw how good it could be. It just didn't come as naturally to me as stand-up. I started doing open mics. Okay. And I was like, this is a lot.
Was this shortly after college then?
This was...
How long did you do improv? Because you said you did all the levels. How long?
Yeah, I'd say it was about 2 years.
Okay. And then you got into stand-up.
Like right after.
Okay.
Yeah, I started doing open mics at the theater that I was doing improv at.
Okay.
And it just came so much more naturally.
Yeah. You loved it.
I loved it.
Okay. And then when did you decide that this is what you want to do?
I think...
Because it's a true crossroads that happens with all of us where it's either shit or get off the pot.
Yeah, I mean, because I obviously still have a day job like most of us.
Yeah, so do I, yeah.
But I would say it was really coming out of the pandemic when I was like I always... Before the pandemic, I thought of myself as someone who does comedy. Yeah. And then after the pandemic, I thought of myself as a comic.
Yeah. Okay. That's actually really revealing because it's interesting you said the day job thing. And because a lot of us, almost all of us have day jobs. Right. But it's so fascinating because I don't think any of us in that realm of like we're comedians, I don't think any of us think of ourselves that way. Like if somebody asks what I do, my first instinct is to say comedy. Between the podcast and stand-up and everything. And I don't get me wrong, I love my restaurant. I love my job, but also I'm very, very good at it. But it's one of those things where I know, and I'm kind of down the rabbit hole now because I'm 35. Right. So it's like I'm not doing like like either I'm going to make it in comedy or I'm like that's it. Yeah. Like people tell me all the time like, well, you should have because I was supposed to go to law school and stuff, and they're like, oh, you should have a plan B, and I go, no. If you have a plan B, you never had a plan A. So it's comedy. That's what it is. It's comedy. But it's so bizarre because it's like, yeah, of course we have day jobs, but I don't even think of it like that. Totally. It's like, no, this is what we do. For you, living in New York, did you find it more difficult or less difficult to kind of break in? Because you're past now at clubs and you do stand-up. Yeah, of course. But that's a big deal. Like, people can laugh it off and be like, oh, well, it's not this club or it's not that club. But it's still, it's a big fucking deal.
No, I appreciate that.
I do open mics all the time and bar shows where we're in New York City and I'm still doing shows where we have ambush comedy. You know what I mean?
No, of
Where
course.
it's like, oh, you guys like trivia? Yeah. Stay for the comedy show. And
I did a bar show like that last week.
Yeah, and I love it. Don't get me wrong. I have nothing against it. But my thing is, like, it takes a lot to get. I go to open mics and I see people I've never seen before who have been in the New York scene for years. So there's a lot of people out there. And not a lot of people can say, oh, I am past at this club. You know how embarrassing it was when I first moved here and guests would be like, oh, where can we see you? And I was like, do you want to come to the industry or not the industry? Did you want to come to Broadway Comedy Club at 3:00 on a Thursday for the open mic? You could see me there. So that is a big deal. So when did that start happening for you?
It was honestly after I did the industry room.
Yeah.
Because I didn't get a residency when I first did it. I was so new into comedy.
Well, I wasn't that new, but I didn't get it either.
But I started. I got into the internship program where I would see people and get stage time from that, and that was the coolest thing to me. Like the fact that I could do this and get consistent stage time at a club.
How far are you in at this point?
I am less than a year in.
Oh, okay. So you were ripping and running right out of the gate.
Probably.
So you did improv for 2 years, and then you about a year into comedy, you got the internship.
Yeah, exactly. Because after that, I'd just been mics all the time, barking, bringer shows, kind of all that stuff. And then when I started doing the internship, that's when I started meeting some of my closest friends in comedy, guys like Drew Beekler, Troy, my buddy Spencer, I co-produced with Cody, who I know you've had on this.
Love Cody. Cody's been on the show a couple of times. So then, and that's another cool thing too is. And I've realized that just from the few shows I've done so far at different clubs is that once you're on a show at a club, it's a totally different animal because you're not at a mic. You're actually dealing with like, we're all professional comics. Like we're here to do a job, but also like, it's not like I've invited people onto the podcast and I've had people on the podcast and I'm a big fan of everyone I've had on. Like everyone will tell you I'm very warm. Right. There's some people where I invite them on and then we'll be talking. They go, yeah, I started comedy like 6 months ago. And I'm like, motherfucker.
I know. We all feel
tomorrow.
That I know.
God. But I say that to say like it's cool when you're at doing actual shows because it's like, oh, everyone here is like, this is what we do.
Right.
Like we all moved to New York to do comedy.
Exactly.
So it's like a different kind of, you know what I mean? Like it's a different kind of expectation.
It's a totally different ethos. Yeah.
And that's so cool that you got to do the internship program and then meet all of these comics, some of whom are like Troy's fucking gigantic now.
Oh, it's awesome. Yeah.
He's a fucking monster out there now.
With him, it was always a when, not an if. Like, he just had something. He was just so talented.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing too, is it's funny because I'll meet people and I'm sure you get this a lot where they find out you do comedy and they go, oh yeah, that totally fits. Like, you're great. You're hilarious. And you're like, okay, I still, like, I'm going to keep pushing.
Oh, yeah.
It takes one compliment from a guest at my restaurant to be like, yeah, I could see that. You're really funny. And I'm like, oh, I'm not going to quit now for 6 more months.
And it's also the adverse, too, because you can get so many compliments, but it's the insults that stay with you. I was on a first date with a girl.
Yeah.
And this is, I'm maybe probably a year into comedy at this point. And she goes, it's so interesting that you do stand-up comedy because you haven't made me laugh once.
Wow.
And I was like, oh, my God, you suck.
You go, yeah, you're not my demographic. You fucking whore.
I told her that I was fake. I'm like, it's interesting because I fake laughed at all your jokes. And she's like, no, you haven't. I go, and she goes, that's your fake laugh?
Was she a goy?
She was a Jew.
Oh.
I know. She was a member of the tribe.
That's disappointing. Yeah, I can make my girlfriend laugh. Sometimes I do inappropriate things, though. Like I'll say way too, because she's a school teacher. And sometimes I will say the way too inappropriate thing. And, I gotta remember, not in the same world that I live in. You know what I mean?
No, of course.
Because like she'll laugh, and then like I remember I said something, and I turned to her, and then I had to get serious for a second. I was like, "Listen, comedy is my coping mechanism.
Right.
So I understand that wasn't funny to you, but that's a hilarious joke.
Also, you're not drinking. Like, yeah, you're sober
fine.
now.
Everything's good.
This is your vice.
Yeah, we'll do a fucking Gaza joke here and there. Anyway, So then you get the internship, you start meeting other comics and stuff. And then from there, you just were like, all right, we're in it, we're doing it?
Yeah, I think so. I just loved it so much.
Yeah.
And then you followed like that path. Like I met my buddy Spencer. We started producing together, and I work in marketing for my day job, so I was able to kind of carry over some of those skills to producing, like figuring out PR relationships and like and stuff.
So
like that.
with your day job, we don't have to get too far into it because I know that's like separate from the comedy world. But I'm very interested in this because my older sister works in marketing. Yeah. And I've met people who do comedy who are in marketing. Is there a direct correlation between studying marketing and then like as a comedian, like marketing yourself, or is it a different set of skills entirely when you're talking about companies versus people?
I think there's definitely some overlap. I feel that's something that I honestly need to do a better job of is like knowing how social media works, but not knowing how to apply it to myself.
Okay, I see what you're saying. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's like, after playing college football and stuff, I'm like, well, yeah, I know how to get shredded and eat healthy. I just don't do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Like I can tell someone else
you have the playbook for that.
Yeah, but I'm not gonna do it. All right, so I wanted to get into some of the. You sent me a list of stories, which I definitely want to talk about. But a couple of things I wanted just to get as far as like background, because you mentioned your freshman year of college when you went to
Northwestern.
Oh my God, fucking smart guy over here. Go Purple People Eaters.
Wow. You know us.
Yeah. I love Pardon the Interruption, and Mike Wilbon is esteemed.
All those guys came from Medill.
Alum. They came from where?
Medill. That's like the journalism school.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, God, you went to North fucking Western.
Go Cats.
Yeah. Smart guy. So when did you, because you have a story here about your freshman year, which I want to talk to you about. Right. But when did you first start drinking?
I first started drinking my freshman year of high school.
Okay.
But very... not.
Did you go to all boys Jewish school?
No, it's a great question. No, I went to.
That's a thing.
Yeah, no, it totally is.
God, by the way you laughed, I was like, "Fuck, am I racist?"
No, not at all. No, people just expect that.
Anti-Semitic?
I'm honestly not that religious, even though I radiate Judaism. So but I went to Bronx.
More
Science.
culturally.
More cultural. Exactly.
If I have a nickel for every time, I've heard that like 9 times in the last 2 days.
Welcome to Manhattan.
Just in the last 2 days. Like, I'll mess with Tracy about I go, you can't eat that. And she goes, it's more of a cultural thing.
And cultural, okay? There's a difference there.
Yeah, okay? It's more of a cultural thing. Morty. That's all.
Kyle.
Oi.
I'm big.
Wait, I'm not allowed to do that. You can do that. I'm not allowed.
I give you permission to do it.
Cut it! As my friend Zach Vandergriff says, clip it! So, freshman year of high school.
Yes.
You're from the Upper West Side.
I'm from Midtown.
Okay.
But
I was being stereotypical.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I went to high school in the Bronx Science.
Oh, for real?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
But
That's like a big academy, isn't it?
Yeah, it's like one of the...
That's the thing that fucking Spider-Man's based off of, isn't it?
Wow. Yes, exactly. That's exactly what it's based off. I actually...
You think you're the only fucking nerd?
You know your nerd shit.
If I'm not wearing my own merch, it's a graphic tee of some sort.
Fun fact about that. So in the Spider-Man Homecoming movies, the ones with Tom Holland, they use an exposition device, like a school TV show, to kind of talk about the news. It's like a very awkward school show where they give announcements. And they base that off the Bronx Science school news show Wolverine TV.
Oh, wow.
And that was created by me.
Oh, my God! Oh, my God! You're famous, dude.
I don't want to brag.
Did DC reach out?
It's no DMing Dane.
Did Marvel reach out? Did you get paid for that?
No.
We're clipping this whole thing, and I'm sending it to Disney, Disney Plus, Marvel, the whole universe.
I want my residuals.
Yeah. I don't even know how to write that in the notes. Famous and Spider-Man. So that was something you started at that school?
I started that when I was in high school because I was the kid in high school who did like all the extracurriculars. Like if you ever seen Rushmore.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Like that guy.
Yeah. So none of the sports ones.
None of the sports. I actually ran track. But
did you really?
Yeah, but I was like
liar.
I was thinner back then.
No, not only that. It's just not an athletic people.
Yeah. Well, that's why we ran distance.
Had all that training.
We can't run fast, but we can run at an even pace over a long period of time.
Yeah, you did it for like 40 years. You had all that training, man.
In the desert.
You want to talk about heat training. So you go to the Bronx Science, which is a very, obviously we've established, a very esteemed school here in the city. And then from there, like how... I want to know this because I'm assuming it's a lot of like, as a nerd, I'm going to say this, a lot of nerds at this school. So how does like drinking come up? Because I've talked about this before. I've had a lot of theater kids on the show, obviously, because they translate into stand-up. How does, like, is it like we're just going to fucking party? Or, like, how does it happen?
Yeah, I think it's a gradual progress. Like, we didn't have, like, big, giant house parties because we were in the city. So it was whenever someone's parents were out of town. And because
like 5 or 6 of you in an apartment?
Yeah,
or?
and because it was a school for nerds, like, at a normal high school, I would not have been cool.
Yeah.
But at Bronx Science, I was at least in the upper tiers of coolness.
Yeah.
Because I was like always making people laugh and doing theater, which again, in another high school would have me shoved in a locker. But at Bronx Science, like, oh, this guy does student government, he's pretty all right. Like, yes. I did the school announcement, so I got invited to every party. They're like, we want to have the announcement guy there.
Yeah, you're the voice.
I was the voice.
You were the voice, and then later on, you created the television show.
Exactly.
You are Bronx Science.
I am Bronx Science. My dad went there. My grandparents went there. My sister. We had a long legacy.
His father before him.
And his father before him was a farmer, but...
But, you know. Oh, my God, that's crazy. So, and I find this fascinating because I went to a public school in Florida.
Okay.
Central Florida, more specifically. 3,600 kids. Mm-hmm. And I was in the IB program, which is the International Baccalaureate program. It's like the hardest classes you can take in the world. Strong flex. Take that, Bronx Science. It's literally an international program. But I went to this school because of that. But my school, because it was so big, you had a lot of nerds in IB, but they were the fucking cool nerds. Like the ones who played guitar and like, you know what I mean?
Totally.
Like, but they were also super smart, but they were also very very artistic for being as smart as they were.
Autistic?
Yeah, both. tomato. And then you had like the jocks, and then you had like the regular like burnouts and the heshers and stuff like that. So I was bullied relentlessly by the other football players because I was a nerd, but also I didn't hit my growth spurt until I was. So I'm saying all that to say,
were you a football player though?
Yeah. I played football my entire life. I started playing football in 7th grade, but I was always the runt of the team because I didn't hit my growth spurt until I was a senior in high school. So I used to get the shit kicked out of me.
Aren't running backs usually shorter though than most?
Well, I played offensive line in high school.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And the only reason I played fullback in college was because I was too small to play offensive line at a D1 school. So it was the only school in the state. It was the only school in the country that still ran a pro style offense that was close to home, but also was a Division I school. That's why I went there. But I was relentlessly bullied. So I'm trying to translate this in my head from your experience. Had I gone to a school like yours, or like if my school was just IB and you took everyone else out of it, you're saying I could have been like king shit.
You would have been like homecoming king and prom king, like
were you on the homecoming court and stuff?
We didn't have homecoming at the but if we did,
I was gonna yell, fuck off. Are you kidding? You were like the king of that school.
I know. I was almost president of the school. I was disqualified in a cheating scandal.
Oh my God, we gotta talk about that. I know we're supposed to be on drinking stories now, but what happened?
It was a stupid nonsense rule, but no, I'm not bitter. When I was a sophomore, I ran for a student government position called like school leadership team representative. Okay. I crushed the election. I won in a landslide.
Of course you did.
Of course I did. I was king of the school.
So this is sophomore year.
This is sophomore year.
And you're just running for basically like a state representative position.
Exactly. Yeah. And so, but because I won that with so much ease, everyone in the school knew me. So I'm like, of course I'm going to run for president.
Yeah. Why not? I had to edit some stuff out of here. The story still kind of makes sense the way it is, but if you're wondering if it skipped or something like that, it did not. It's been slightly edited. If you want the whole story, subscribe on Patreon.
And it got to be like,
you're like, he's no king of the school.
Yeah, he's no king of the school, but he was better looking than I was. I get that, but like it got to be the day of the election, and I had messaged people on Facebook like to vote for me.
Yeah,
and there was like a rule
Oh,
it's small lettering that you couldn't do it because it was disadvantageous to anyone who didn't have a Facebook account.
Oh no!
So the guy I was running against caught me. Got me disqualified.
Wait, your friend got
My friend did. That's a silly rule. And so I went to the principal, and the principal's like, YouTube and Facebook are the same thing. And so they disqualified him too.
Oh, so nobody.
So they made the VP president. But I got to keep my old position.
The VP's just sitting in the back waiting for all the dust to settle.
Exactly.
Just slipped right in there.
Minding his time. He ended up going to, I think he went to Yale.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Well, it's no Northwestern.
It's no Northwestern.
We'll give it to him. So you said freshman year. So you guys would all just get together and like hang out at apartments when people were out of town?
Yeah, pretty much.
So it never got too out of control.
Not really, no.
I was gonna say because it seems like a play it safe kind of crowd anyway.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because again, the cool people were still all nerds.
Yeah.
Like, and I remember.
I can't get over that dynamic.
Oh yeah, the first time
that seems so cool to me, where I could like, oh yeah, we're all the same here.
You would have been a god.
Like that seems. I wish I could go back in time. All right, enough about that. So. So it never got out of control. Mm-hmm. Did you always have your sights set on going to like a bigger school? Because Northwestern is not technically Ivy League, but it's up there.
Yeah, I really wanted to. I wasn't that I always wanted to go to a good school, but I wasn't necessarily invested in going to an Ivy. I really wanted to leave New York for college.
Did you apply to any Ivies?
And I actually applied to Northwestern early.
Okay.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, did you get into any Ivies?
Who knows what would have happened?
God, that would have been cool to know.
I'm not bitter.
So you apply to Northwestern, you get in. Now this is going to take us to the first story that you sent me, which is the freshman year story. How far? So when you go, are you going fall or summer semester?
I am going fall semester.
Okay, so you're going right. So high school ends. You spend the summer at home. Anything crazy happen then, or
Not
you just
really.
yeah? You just
I got walking pneumonia.
Well. Oh boy! You guys and your ailments.
You're studying marketing. You should be going to medical school,
right? We need another lawyer. I'm gonna get my girlfriend's gonna kill me. So you get to Northwestern in the fall semester. When you show up, you're living on campus, I assume, as a freshman?
That's right.
And are you like, what's the vibe when you get there? Because Northwestern, while it's a good school, you're not in Kansas anymore. This isn't like a friendly confines of I reign over this whole school, even though I am a nerd as well.
Yeah.
Northwestern's got like legit like athletes.
Yeah, no, it's a Big Ten school.
Yeah, it's a Big Ten school. So when you showed up, were you out of your element or were you super excited? Like, take us through that.
Yeah, I was out of my element only in the sense that like they put me in like some random dorm. Like I knew I wanted to be in a fraternity. And like there was like the dorms for the people that wanted to like rush frats and like who were like athletes.
Yeah.
And they put me in a dorm with like just these people that were obsessed with movies and
They saw your last name.
Yeah, exactly. Like I love movies too, but like these people like never wanted to go out. They wanted to stay inside like every weekend.
So they put you in like the nerd dorm.
They put me in the nerd dorm.
Whereas your personality and what you were trying to accomplish was more suited for the athlete.
Right,
bracket,
exactly.
Like, let's go. You're ambitious. You were
right.
like,
and because
let's
I was a
fucking
cool
do
nerd
it.
in high school, I was like, I should be in like the cool dorm. And they're like, no, this is where you belong.
I should be over there with the fucking football players, man.
Do you remember in Animal House, like when they when they like come to like the cool fraternity and they just walk them into the rooms with the rejects over and over again? That's what it was like.
So you get there, and then so obvious because this is interesting to me because the listeners know this already. But my first experience when I got to college was I met the pirate Sean Michael Murphy, and we immediately started partying like that day. As soon as my uncle left and his dad left, he's like, "Yo, do you want to get high?" And I was like, "I don't smoke." He's like, "Well, then let's go drink." And like that was within the first 6 hours of being at school.
Right.
For you. And I've heard lots of stories like that from other people. Like I showed up and someone cracked a beer and it was 9:30 in the morning and stuff like that. But for you, it was not that experience at all.
I was like, let's crack a beer.
Were you pissed?
I was furious. I was like, are you shitting me? And then there were like two guys in the dorm who ended up like joining the fraternity I joined with me.
How many people are in the actual dorm room?
There are probably 150 people in the dorm.
In the dorm itself?
Yeah.
And then how many people are like, so it's all obviously broken up into floors. How many people are in your actual room? Is
in
it
my
just
room,
you?
it's just me and one other guy.
Okay, so you're sharing a room.
Yeah.
Because when I first got there, I was staying in the student apartment. So we all shared a kitchen and a living room, but then 4 of us had our own separate rooms.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was fucking sick. Building 60 shouts out.
Let's fucking go.
Yeah, oh man, it was so much fun. So you are living. The guy you're living with is obviously he's not.
No, he's like
level.
not looking to go out at all. He just wants to watch Fight Club over and over again.
It's the same person.
It's the same person. I get it.
Yeah, it's super cool. Love the movie. It's the same guy.
Yeah.
Newsflash: Edward Norton is Brad Pitt. Sorry to spoil it for everybody.
To spoil the 25-year-old movie.
God. So what did you do when you first get there?
So when I
what's your instinct?
So There was a guy who I went to Bronx Science with who also was a nerd, but he really wasn't that different from me, but somehow
Did you guys party together at Bronx Science?
We didn't. Somehow he wasn't able to cross over into the cool kids group. Like even though we were like the same guy, he was just on the nerd side.
Yeah.
And so he was in that cool dorm. And so I would get invited to all the parties from him through him, and he would always say the same shit to me. He goes, the roles have reversed. He goes, you're relying on me now.
And say, shut up.
Yeah, I was like, fuck you, man.
I'm still way cooler than you.
But I was also still so dependent on him for my social
you have
plans.
to be, because you can't. That's the cool thing about college, but it's also the bad thing is like you become so initiated and like so ingrained in your actual group, like your dorm unit. Like I just had John Weiss brought, who's a very talented musical artist on. He's going to come out next week, but or this past week he was just on the show. He was talking about how like everything he did in college was with the people on his like dorm and then the floor. But for you, and same thing for me. But for you, that would be totally fucked. Mm-hmm. So you had to have this buddy.
I had a cousin tell me before I started college, your first semester friends are not going to be your friends. Your second semester friends, those are going to be your friends for life. So that gave me solace.
Okay. Yeah. So then what happens?
So, what happens is I'm so reliant on him for social plans. He introduces me to the fraternities. We start rushing together.
Yeah.
And one of the fraternities, Lodge, which I didn't end up joining, they're having a huge kind of blowout party. And
this is first semester freshman year.
This is first semester freshman year, and they have all these. They have Jello shots. I never had Jello shots before in high school, and I get hammered. I'm drunker. Like
Jello shots is like a Big Ten thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm not blackout drunk, but I'm hammered. Like this is the drunkest.
So
I've
how
ever
does it
been
start?
At this
You
point.
show up. Is it a house? It's at a house?
And
so it's at a frat house. You show up.
We show up, and we had to say the name of like an older guy, and because he was in the cool dorm, he had access to like those names.
So, because this is. I know we're just kind of brushing over it, but these details I'm obsessed with because I remember what it's like. I still know what it's like when I show up to a club and I look around and there's all these big name comics that I don't know really well. I've already met one time or I don't know at all.
Right.
And you kind of look around and I say it all the time. Still, when I go to the Olive Tree, which is a part of the cellar to like just go get food, I still feel like I'm trying to sit at the fucking cool kids table.
Totally.
And I'm on the other side, like not even near the comics. And I'm like, I don't belong here. So for you, going to this party, that's a huge thing.
It was, yeah.
You only know this one other guy, and he happens to maybe know a name. You don't know if it's going to work.
Yeah.
So you just show up to this huge house party. And what? Take us through it. Like you walk up the steps and someone's like, yo, like what the fuck are you doing? Like what happens?
So we get there and we actually get in pretty seamlessly.
Okay.
And it's just like the ratio is amazing.
Do you have to say the name before?
We had to say the name.
Who do you say the name to?
We said it to
Was
the
guy at the door?
Yeah,
or?
there's always at every frat there's always a guy at the door.
Okay.
And so they were like, okay, and they let us in because it was just two of us. We didn't have like a huge group of guys.
Yeah.
And
because they like those ratios.
They love the ratios. And we're just we're having a great time.
Yeah, it's good for Rufalin.
Absolutely.
Nailed that. See, he teed it up and then I hit it out.
But so we're just like partying around, just having a great time. I'm
doing Jello shots.
Doing Jello shots. We get separated, and I'm talking to this girl, and she is beautiful, like just a perfect 10. Looks like Katherine Heigl.
Oh shit!
And we're vibing. We're like really vibing. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm like,
we're too old to say we're vibing.
Yeah, no, we're not old enough to say we're vibing. Vibing, that's like something people say in their like 50s. They're vibing.
Really?
I don't know.
I always think the other way. Vibing.
Vibing. I love to vibe with.
Vibing is
vibes.
My favorite.
Crazy good.
Your son, fuckhead that he is.
5 years I vibed with this watch up my ass.
Hey, ow. Ow. That's all my Christopher Walken. It's just ow.
It's just a lot of onomatopoeia.
Yeah, it's that and then quoting True Romance. Your son, fuckhead that he is. So you're vibing.
We're vibing.
You're vibing in the party.
I was like, pretty lady, it's good to meet you.
That's the clip.
We're just hitting it off, and she says, "Hey, why don't we go get another drink?" And I'm like, "Oh, fuck yeah!" So we go to get some more Jello shots. And
that's not another drink.
I'm 18 years old at the time, so I don't know what I'm doing. Yeah. And I thought I was closing the door lightly of the room we were leaving, but I accidentally slam it, and the whole party just looks at me.
Because
I slammed the door.
Yeah, in their house.
Yeah, in their house. And this one frat brother who's like small, he's like built, but he's also like 5'6". He's
that's why he's built.
Yeah, exactly. He's like, he looks at me and he's like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?" He goes, "Did you just slam that door?" And I was like, "I'm so sorry, man. I thought I was closing it. I didn't mean to slam it." He goes, "You thought you were closing it and you slammed it by accident? What are you, an idiot? Are you a fucking idiot?" And he turns to his friend. He goes, "This guy's a fucking idiot." And
you didn't just walk away, did you?
I was walking away, and the Katherine Heigl girl goes, "Wow, that guy's such a dick." And because I'm hammered, I go, "Yeah, hey, dick." And he
oh, no. You're at his house.
He turns around immediately. He goes, "What'd you say?" I was like, "What?"
Because you're 18. He's probably like a 26-year-old senior.
he's probably 20, but
yeah. And when you're that age,
20, 26, exactly. Yeah. And he's looking at me. He goes, "Did you just call me a dick?" And I was like, "I don't know. Did I?" And I'm thinking to myself, why am I talking like this?
Why am I doing this?
Yeah.
What are you doing? What are you doing?
And his buddy who's next to him, who's like a smaller guy, like who's like taller but like much slighter. Yeah. He's like, "You gonna let that guy talk to you like that?" He goes, "Dude," he goes, "Why are you talking to me like that?" He goes, "You want to go?" And I was like, "Bring it on, bitch."
What?
And as I'm saying it, I'm like, what the fuck am I saying?
You can't fight.
And the girl next to me is smiling too.
Yeah, she is.
But I've never been into a fight before.
Yeah, you don't say.
And
the guy who went to Northwestern from Bronx Science never been in a fight.
And so
in Midtown.
In Midtown Manhattan. It's a tough life, but someone's got to live it. So there's frat dude who I challenged to a fight. It's like, "Okay, you and me outside." I go, "Let's fucking go."
Yeah,
I'm still confident. I'm thinking
you're not small. You're not.
Yeah, no, I'm not like a tiny guy, but
you're like 6 feet tall.
5'11", but
I was trying to give you the benefit of the doubt.
on Tinder, I'm 6 feet, to quote Lil Dicky.
Yeah, right.
But so we step outside, and as we're going outside, I'm thinking to myself, how the fuck am I going to get out of this?
So you've made a horrific.
I know I've made a horrific mistake.
Yeah,
like I knew I was making the mistake while I was shit talking him. But I just couldn't stop. And
I've been there.
Yeah,
I have that bit about putting my head through that guy's window, but it's like I do it, and the joke I say I was not conscious, but I wasn't. And these guys rush out of the car, and in my head I'm like, "Why did you do that? Like, now you have to fight 3 people.
Right.
Like, you're a fucking idiot."
Yeah. No,
so for you,
like
you're
that.
walking out and you're like, "What have you done?"
Exactly. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, I'm taller than this guy. He's got more muscles than me, but I've got like 5-6 inches on him.
Especially of reach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, just got to keep my distance. But I'm like, you know what? Let's see if I can just diffuse the situation. So we get out there and the door closes. It's outside. It's just me and him. And
no.
No one else came out. Like, because he actually said, he goes, "You stay here, enjoy the party," to his buddy. He goes, "I'm going to take care of this guy." And he goes, so we get outside and it's just me and him.
I'm going to take care of this guy.
And I'm like, and it's about to happen. I'm like, "Dude, I'm so sorry. This is your house. Like, I did not mean to start up with you. I'm just hammered. I was trying to impress a girl. I'm really sorry." And then he extends his arm but he puts his hand on my shoulder. He goes, "No, man, I'm sorry."
What the fuck? What just happened?
And I'm thinking that in my head. I was like, "What?" And he goes, "You're a freshman. You're just trying to have a good time. I started up with you. I was just trying to impress my brothers. All you did was close a door, and I just got in your face." And I'm like, "Dude, it's not a big." I'm like,
"What is happening?"
That's what I'm thinking. I'm like, "Dude, it's not a big deal." He goes, "It is a big deal." He goes, "I'm a junior. I should know better." He goes, "Who am I to just be ruining your night?" He goes, "You seem like a great guy, honestly."
Yeah.
He goes,
"Yeah, I'm the king of the fucking."
That's
Bronx.
right. I was king of the fucking Bronx Science. I was the voice of God there. He goes, "Give me your number." He goes, "I'll let you know about some of our upcoming parties. Go back in, enjoy yourself."
Wow.
Yeah.
That is astonishing. Yeah. In all my years doing this show, all the fights I've been in my life, I did not see that coming.
Neither did I. I was so hyped.
Oh my God. So what did you do? You go in and party?
I just went back in.
Did
she left at that point.
Ah, fucking bitch. God, that's insane.
But I was just on such a high. I was like, fuck, I thought I was going to get my ass kicked.
Yeah. Well, speaking of high, I wanted to ask you about the dinner party.
Yes.
I got to get my pen because I threw it in amazement. So at this dinner party, when did you discover that you had this issue, the medical issue?
The thyroid issue?
Yeah.
Yeah, so that happened during, like, coming right out of the pandemic. Like,
so you went through college and partied and did all that stuff and never had an issue?
Never had an issue with my thyroid or anything like that.
And then during the pandemic...
during the pandemic, I started losing like all this weight.
Yeah.
And my
I
blood.
thought you were going to say, I started drinking every day.
Every day. I smoked weed a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah, I started losing all this weight, and I wasn't exercising because I'd hurt my knee running. And I.
You could have just said I wasn't.
My
no one's going to judge you.
my Oscar Schlatters was acting up.
Oh, God. You guys and your ailments. My girlfriend all the time.
My sciatica.
This hurts. That hurts. My nose is stuffed. My nose is running. I don't know.
Perpetually.
I don't understand it. You guys have gotten through so much.
I know. It's amazing, honestly.
And your bodies are always falling apart.
We use our minds.
Oh, that got me. So you hurt your knee, so you're not running. And you're losing all this weight.
I'm losing all this weight. My blood pressure is through the roof. Like
Yeah.
I'm so anxious. I can't sleep. I'm having night sweats. And I keep seeing people because we're coming out of the pandemic. This is like early 2021.
Yeah.
And people are like, you look amazing. I'm like, it's crazy because I've never felt worse in my life.
Yeah, I'm dying.
Yeah, exactly. Like it was horrible. But I just kept losing weight. And but I didn't even question that something could be wrong with me. I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm not exercising. I've lost 25 pounds. I'm like, that makes sense. I'm awesome.
I've been eating better.
Yeah, and I wasn't.
No, but in your
Yeah,
head,
exactly.
You're like, yeah, I did only eat like twice yesterday.
I said to myself, I'm like, I've been city biking a lot, but I was using the e-bike.
Yeah, of course.
So that's not an exercise.
So you go to the doctor and they're like,
Yeah.
oh, you have a thyroid issue.
Yeah, my blood pressure was like through the roof, and they're like, this is kind of abnormal, and like I had to get like.
Wasn't it when you went to the doctor? Was it an emergency situation?
No, I just went for a checkup.
Okay.
Yeah.
But like no one was like they didn't see your blood pressure and be like, oh my God.
No, that's exactly, yeah. When they saw my blood pressure, they're like, this is kind of abnormal. They gave
Okay.
me like an EKG. They're like, this is like pretty abnormal.
Something's wrong.
And they gave me like an echocardiogram of my heart, and everything was normal there. So like, okay, so your blood pressure's off, but your heart is normal. And they're like, so that usually is an indication the thyroid is off.
Okay.
Yeah.
So then they told you weren't allowed to drink anymore.
Yeah, so I had to get on medication, and for like the 4 months when I was on the medication, or actually no, it was 6 months, I couldn't drink at all. Like,
Oh, so you couldn't because I'm assuming the medication does a deal on your liver.
yeah, that's exactly it. Yeah, so they're like, you don't want to fuck with
Recovering
your liver.
alcoholic, I have done quite a deal on my liver. Thank you.
So they were like, you don't want to fuck with your liver. Like, so yeah, I couldn't drink
Actually, do you want to hear a secret?
What's that?
You can fuck with it. It's going to be fine.
at all. Doesn't it regenerate?
Yeah, it's the only organ in the body that regenerates.
That's
and it's
amazing.
also one of the biggest organs in the body, and it's also one of the most resilient organs in the body.
Oh, wow. I did not expect to learn this much about my liver on this podcast.
Well, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
I mean, as someone who woke up in a hospital by being told by a doctor I should be dead, and my organs started to shut down on my last drunk. Trust me.
So you're sober for a reason.
Yeah. You're good. I understand why they say that because people will abuse it,
Totally.
and then you get hammered, and then your liver will shut down, and then you're fucked. But you could have a drink or two.
Absolutely.
So for a thyroid situation, you only have to take the medication for 4 months.
Yeah, so I ended up taking the medication for
Because
about
it looks
a
like
year.
you look
Yeah, I'm
healthy.
like back
you
to
look
normal.
good.
No,
yeah,
thank
yeah.
you. Like, so I took it for a year, but I took like an intense version of it for like 4 months.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then tell me about the dinner party.
Yeah, so basically, I couldn't drink at all. I was drinking like Heineken Zeros, but I could smoke weed.
Yeah.
And honestly, I prefer
Doesn't go
weed.
through the liver.
Yeah, it doesn't go through the liver. I prefer weed to drinking anyway.
Yeah.
So I'm going to this super kind of bougie dinner party that my college friends put together, fraternity brothers. I did end up joining a fraternity,
Yep.
not the one where the guy tried to fight me.
Now
But
you ended up joining Sigma Chi.
Sigma Chi, that's right. And so my Sigma Chi buddy and his wife, they
God, Sigma Chi frat bros from Northwestern. Those have got to be some powerful people now.
yeah.
How old are you?
I'm 30.
Okay, so those, by now they've got to be
Yeah,
executives and junior execs.
All
and
executives,
partners
like
and-
people working in finance,
Yeah.
consulting, things like that. Yeah.
Fuck yeah. Do you know anybody who works in agencies?
Like talent agencies?
Yeah.
No.
You're like, I wouldn't be doing this podcast. if I
Ad
did.
agencies.
Yeah, right.
You're
Hey,
looking at one.
You're looking at him. So you go to this dinner party for your frat. So it's not like a girlfriend's parents kind of a thing. It's like
Right.
people your age, your friends. Where is it at a home?
It's at a home. Yeah, they just bought a place. They're like really got like their
In the city or out of the city?
In Brooklyn.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's an actual house.
It's
not
like
an
it's an apartment, but it's
Okay.
like a nice apartment.
Yeah.
And it's
Yeah,
like
we're tracking. We understand. It's a nice apartment.
Yeah, they're the Northwestern executive. And it was like a cocktail themed party. They were going to make different rounds of cocktails, and I couldn't drink them because I couldn't drink. And so I brought a tin of Camino edibles,
Okay.
which are just like only 5 milligrams, but they're potent.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I don't want to be the one guy who's high at this dinner party while they're all just like enjoying these drinks.
Just sipping on cocktails.
Just sipping on cocktails. So I'm like, you guys are all taking edibles. And like, I'm like, I brought enough for all of you. And they're like, fuck yeah, we're down.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah, they were all super down for it. They didn't, because I'm like, it's only 5 milligrams. And I guess they didn't expect it to be that potent. I didn't either.
Yeah.
And so.
Well, it's like a concentrated 5 milligrams.
It really
isn't
is.
It? Yeah.
Yeah, it totally is. And we didn't make it to any of the cocktails. We only got like one of the courses of dinner. It was like spaghetti that was like pre-made. And we all loved the spaghetti because we were high out of our minds.
Yeah. So what ended up? You guys just all hung out and
we were
talked?
all just hanging out. Like people were just like rolling on the floor laughing. We tried to play like charades. We couldn't do that.
Oh my God.
My buddy's wife, like she's trying to cook, and meanwhile I'm like talking to her about this new anime show I'm watching. And she's like trying to be really polite. She's like, Brent, I'm trying to cook here. I'm like, no, but you don't understand. Like when Eren Yeager finds out that he's a Titan, it completely changed the game.
Oh my God.
And then her husband, who's supposed to be helping her cook,
Yeah.
he's like very invested in what I'm saying.
Oh, so he's in it.
He's like, man, I want to watch this anime now.
Is he an anime guy?
No, not at all. He was just really high.
You're a salesman, dude. That's what you do.
Exactly.
God. So you are, as you mentioned, you like weed more than you like drinking.
I do, yeah.
When did you first start smoking?
I first started smoking, I think, my senior year of high school.
Okay, so it took you a little longer to get there, but then
Yeah.
you like it better.
It was like, you know, the stuff growing, because you're 35, I'm 30, like
Yeah.
similar generation. I feel like there was a lot more propaganda around weed when we were growing
Oh
up.
yeah, it was. I remember. It was funny because I remember when I got to college and I met Murph and he was brought up the weed thing and I was like, oh no, I don't smoke. And one of it was because I was an athlete, but two of it was kind of like, no, like weed's for like the bad kids. Like
Yeah.
And because of the propaganda you're talking about. And then I remember the first time I saw Coke and I was like, again in college, like I think I was a sophomore at this point, and I was like, oh my God, like that really exists. I thought that was like, I knew it really existed, but growing up the way I grew up, that wasn't a part. I was an athlete, like I was in IB, like I just didn't. Yeah, I grew up around Daytona, and like a lot of my friends lived in like rough areas and stuff. But like I didn't. Even when my parents got divorced, my mom lived in a really rough area, so when we'd go to stay with her, but I just never saw that.
Right.
Like I saw fights and drinking and weed, but I never saw like hard drugs. And I remember being like, you can't have that. No one's allowed to have it. So for you, as a senior in high school, you were kind of like against weed just because that's what was pushed on you.
Yeah, exactly. And like, my dad never really smoked it growing up. And my
That also blew my mind.
Yeah.
When I found out like parents who grew up in the 60s and 70s were like potheads, I was like, ugh, like you're not allowed to smoke. Like my parents are both drinkers, but I was like, you can't smoke. And obviously drinking is way worse for you than smoking is. But in my head, I was like, that's so degenerate. You're a pothead?
Yeah, and I think it was for me. It was like I feel like if I knew my dad did it, I would be more comfortable.
Yeah.
Like, but because he didn't, I was like, oh, weed. It's like it's the gateway drug.
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to get. And then like
God, and then I've just snorted heroin and smoked crack, and I still don't like weed. I've done those things, but so what's really the gateway?
Yeah.
So did you end up smoking and then you're like, oh, I like this?
Yeah, pretty
Okay.
much. I started because I had gone to Northwestern early decision. So
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm just chilling like the rest of like high school.
Just not.
Yeah. So I'm like, why don't I try this weed thing? And I'm like, it's fucking amazing.
Did you? Well, yeah, and you also like comic books and anime and stuff. That's the perfect thing.
It was
for
perfect. It made food taste delicious. I was running a lot, so like I couldn't put on any pounds. It's like you remember in Dewey Cox? Like you ever see that? Oh yeah. When he's going to
Smoking reefer in here, Dewey.
He goes, you don't want none of this shit. He goes, well, I don't want to get addicted. You can't get addicted.
Yeah. It'll ruin my life. It ruins nobody's life. But to the point about weed, something happened to you with a family member, your grandmother.
That's right, yeah.
And that was the last story we were going to tell before we headed out. We might have to get you back on and talk more fucking
I would love to.
anime,
I'm honored.
comic books. We got to go through like the frat.
Please,
I'm sure there's a lot of frat stories in there. So, but you sent me the story, so I definitely wanted to touch on it before you left. So how old are you when this happened?
This is, I am 26.
Okay, so this is a few years ago. And you're smoking weed on a regular basis. Everything's, I mean, it's legal in New York. Nobody gives a shit. And what happens? Take us through, like, what day is it? What's going on?
Yeah, so basically, it's Memorial Day weekend, and my grandma, this is my dad's mom, her and I were so close, like, super close. She lived in the Bronx growing up, like, her and my grandpa, and, like, we would, my sister and I would always visit them. They would pick us up from Bronx Science, like, and my grandpa died when I was in high school, like, my senior year. So, like, we were very close, but, like, he passed when I was 18, but my grandma, like, I was friends with into adulthood.
Yeah,
like, we had that relationship.
That's how I am with my grandma.
Yeah, no, it's. I still one of my grandma's still around. She's 91. She's crushing it right now. Like,
Tracy's grandma, 96.
96.
And when we go, because
love those Jewish women.
Both my grandparents, I have both my grandmothers left, and one lives in Florida and one lives in Ohio, so I don't see them nearly as much. I call the one in Florida probably once a week, and the one in Ohio I call like every once a month. But I am very close with my dad's mother.
Right.
But we go to see Tracy's grandma, Amma, and it's nuts, dude. Yeah. She's 96, and she's literally like has a schedule.
That's amazing.
She does like aerobics and stretching, and yoga. No lie, dude.
At 96,
she like does a lot of stuff like via like Zoom and stuff. She goes to like these current event classes.
That's so cool.
And I'm like, Amma, you're killing. You're doing more than not more, but you're doing as much as I am. And I'm working 2 jobs and doing stand up and podcasting, and like she's doing the same amount of shit I'm doing. So your grandmother and you are very close.
Yeah.
You see her all the time. Even into adulthout. Like you come back from school, you can make sure to go see grandma.
All the time. We'd talk to her like...
Bubby?
We'd just call her grandma.
Okay.
But we'd talk to her like once a week. What?
Bubby's a thing.
Bubby is a thing, yeah. Just not for me.
Yeah, just not.
Not for me.
Not what I'm doing.
But yeah, so we're very close, but like she's near the end at this point. She's almost 90. She's got dementia. She's got
that's
kidney
the rough
disease.
one, yeah.
And
one of my grandfathers had that.
It's really tough. And it was very quick onset.
Yeah.
Like it was like it took like 4 months to like really take form. And at this point she's in the hospital and we know it's kind of near the end. But I also but it's not like it didn't seem like anything was imminent. Like I visited her that day in the hospital, and she's like she was pretty far gone mentally, but we were still like, but you know, she's still,
but physically she
was still there, yeah. And so it was Memorial Day weekend, so it was a long weekend, and
see you later, Grandma.
Basically, we had a huge barbecue planned like the next day, my friends. So one of my one buddy and I, we just decided like let's just stay in tonight, like because we have this.
Where are you
huge
living
day.
at this point?
I'm living in Murray Hill.
Okay,
yeah.
So you're still in Midtown.
I'm still in Midtown.
Are you living on your own or still with?
I'm living on my own. I just happen to be like 5 blocks from my parents.
Okay.
Yeah. And so my buddy
they
and
own the whole avenue.
Oh yes.
Sorry, that was inappropriate.
Who told?
So. You go home, you're having this big barbecue, and what happens?
And so, so the barbecue's the next day. So my buddy and I were like, let's just hang out, watch Tenacious D tonight.
Yeah.
Perfect time.
Pick a Destiny.
Pick a Destiny. Love the movie. We get super high, and we're just like having a great time. We're eating Chinese food. And then I get the call from my mom at like 9:45, and my mom goes to bed pretty early. And
so you know something's happening.
I knew even before I picked up, and she was like,
how do you pick up?
So I pick up and I'm like, the first thing that crosses my mind, I'm like, fuck, Grandma passed. This sucks. And then the second thought was, I'm too high for this. I am way too high for this.
Did you tell your mom?
No, I didn't tell her I was high, but I picked up and she was like, Grandma passed. And I was like, oh my God. And I
have to go immediately.
Yeah, I got on with my dad, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, Dad. He goes, no, it was happening, and he's like, look, he goes, take the time tonight, come over tomorrow, and I'm thinking to myself, thank God, because I just I just couldn't handle the emotions with the amount of weed I had smoked. Like,
come over now.
Yeah, exactly.
Can we do this tomorrow?
And then my sister calls me like right afterwards, and she's bawling, and I feel so terrible because I'm like trying to be the older brother for her and just like talk her through because we were both so close to her. But at the same time, I like can't form words. And I was like, I want, and like,
yeah, it's bad. I guess it's really bad.
And I told her, I'm like, I'm sorry, my stomach hurts. I'm like, you could talk to my buddy, and I give her my buddy.
You what?
And he's high. He goes, yeah, I'm sorry, Brett. He's like, Brett's taking this really tough, and then which I was, but I also just couldn't talk.
But
to my
also,
sister.
yeah,
and so
you're also
like
stoned out of your mind,
stoned out of my mind, and so we hang up, and she's coming in from Philly to like to my parents the next day. So I'm like, okay, I'll just like talk to her then. And so my buddy, though, is in such a weird place, too, because he's like, I want to be here for you, man, but I'm also just high out of my mind, too.
God.
So he's like, I don't know what to do. And I'm like, let's just keep watching the movie.
So you just watched the movie and then next day everything was good?
Maybe I did mental gymnastics, but she was so funny. She just had a great sense of humor. So I'm like, if I watch this movie and I'm laughing, that's like a good way to.
Well, it's also hilarious that you're like your sister's bawling and you're trying to like talk her off the ledge, but you can't form sentences.
I can't form sentences. I know in my mind I'm saying she loved you so much. It's gonna be okay. She lived a long life. Like it's.
But your words are like pizza and French fries.
Yeah, baby. It was just like not even that. It was just like sounds. I was like, and she's like, boy, he's taking it tougher than I.
Well, on that note, plug everything one more time. The new podcast, let everybody know social media.
Secret Identity Podcast on YouTube and Instagram. The Pregame Comedy on Instagram. Brent Birnbaum on Instagram.
Thanks for coming on, dude.
Thank you so much for having me. This was awesome.
At Brennan T Comedy on all social media. BrennanTComedy.com. Check out the one-man show, which will be premiering on YouTube. Wide release in January. And then, we'll talk to y'all next week. Beautiful.
Awesome.
Dude, that was fun.
Dude, thanks so much for having me. That was a blast.